morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on when or where you might be listening to this, the third episode of the Huron Christian Church podcast. Once again, I am Matt Sibley, and I am joined by the Huron Christian Church team, your senior pastor, Al Weger, family life minister, Brad Carell, worship team leader, John Blum, discipleship minister Luke Muller, and our office manager Maria Bigelow. Thank you all for joining us today. We're very much looking forward to our topic of conversation. But before we get into that, just to give you a little bit of a refresher, last episode we had Chris Duncan on with us, who is with Christian Student Fellowship. And he talked to us about his campus ministries over at SDSU in Brookings. Let us know how God has been working over there on campus and how they've been able to adapt to this COVID world, and how they've been able to use many of the technologies that we have access to their advantage, and how in many ways they have turned that into an advantage for them, and how they've been able to use that and to grow the campus ministries over there at SDSU. And so if you want to give that a listen, you can go ahead and check out our YouTube channel, the Huron Christian Church YouTube channel. We're also excited to start launching our podcasts on the number of different platforms that we have available to us. So wherever you might be listening to your podcast, whether that's Spotify or iTunes or Google Podcasts, you should be able to get your Huron Christian Church podcast on those platforms very soon as well. So today, we're recording this episode on February 22nd, and the weather is finally starting to cooperate. The sun is out and the snow is melting, and I know many of us are getting excited to get outside and get active, and what a perfect correlation to our topic of conversation today, which is being involved and how to be active in our Huron Christian Church body. So, of course, the question is why? Why do we even need to be involved? Why is it so important that we get involved here at Huron Christian Church? And there are a number of different answers to that, and of course, we're going to be talking about that here today. Obviously, one of the biggest things is our ability to help others, right? We are called to help others through our works, and we're called to witness to them through our works as well. But I think if you're really looking to the core of why we need to be involved, you need to look no further than James chapter 2, starting at verse 14. I'm just going to read that just real quick here. What does it profit, my brethren, if someone says he has faith but does not have works? Can faith save him? If a brother or sister is naked and destitute of daily food, and one of you says to them, depart in peace, be warmed and filled, but you do not give them the things which are needed for the body, what does it profit? Thus, also, if faith by itself does not have works, it is dead. But someone will say, you have faith and I have works. Show me your faith without your works, and I will show you my faith by my works. You believe me that there is one God, you do well. Even the demons believe and tremble. But do you want to know, O foolish man, that faith without works is dead? Was not Abraham our father justified by works when he offered Isaac his son on the altar? Do you see that faith was working with his works? Do you see that faith was working together with his works, and by works faith is made perfect? And the scripture was fulfilled, which says, Abraham believed God, and it was accounted to him for righteousness. And he was called the friend of God. You see then that a man is justified by his works, and not by faith only. And so this is really a snapshot of why it is so important. This is something that we are commanded by God to do and to be. And so it's our obligation through faith to be involved and to be active. And so today, we hope to tell you about all the different opportunities that we have here in Christian Church, and there are a multitude of them. And so without further ado, I suppose, Brad, you are the first one up, and you can talk to us a little bit about what opportunities we have available to us.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. There's lots of opportunities in the family ministry to get involved. We have 7 different Sunday schools going on right now. I'd love to have an additional one on top of that. And I'd love to have multiple teachers in each one of those classes. So I really could use another 7 to 10 teachers just on Sunday mornings. Wednesday night, we'd love to have more help as we continue to grow and develop our Wednesday night program. children's church, junior church worship during our sermon time. We'd like to get back to that coming up here too. And so we could use people that would want to, just take a week every month or every 6 weeks and just help us out with junior worship. For just during the sermon time. Our nursery, we'd love to have multiple people in the nursery again, and just some things that we kind of put on hold and are looking to start up again. Camp in the summer, we take 15 to 20 kids to 4 different weeks of camp. So we'd look for drivers, we'd look for people that come alongside and be family leaders at camp, be cabin moms or dads at camp, and that kind of thing. We kind of mentioned in past episodes about our Help with the Backpack program. It's a service opportunity that we do once or twice a year, and we just help out a branch of the United Way by teaching our kids here at the church how to serve by filling some sacks for kids that might not be able to have a full meal on a weekend. So we can just take some time on a Wednesday night and pack some sacks and help some kids out. So it's a good service opportunity, and it takes lots of hands to make those things happen.
Yeah, and one of the mindsets that I've always had, incorrectly so, is that in many of these areas, service or being involved is somewhat of a one-way street. You're providing a service to others. You're helping others, but from the sounds of the things that you talk about, it sounds like it's really a rewarding experience for the volunteers as well, and whether that, like we said before, taking a little bit of time, and even yourself getting out and getting away and putting the world on pause for a little bit, and spending some time with the youth at youth camps in the summertime, or whether it's just the feel-good nature of helping others through the backpack program, or providing the knowledge that you have and sharing that with others. There's a lot of ways in which, at least in this area specifically, that involvement is rewarding to you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You think you keep telling somebody something and they finally get it, and you can just almost see the light bulb come on, or they have that answer to that question, or you're not even paying attention. They came up and say, "Hey, remember when you told me this?" And boy, yeah, that feeling that comes about you when they got what you were telling them, or oh yeah, they were really paying attention during Sunday school.
Yeah, and so much of what you do in the family life ministry is rewarding for future generations to come. I mean, that's our future involvement. That's our future volunteer pool right there. If we can get them excited and we can get them on fire for God, those individuals will come back, and those people will be the next ones up on our worship teams, or as team leaders here, like we talked about our servant ministry teams, the list of things that we have going on here in Christian Church. Each one of these areas is going to need someone new at some point or another, and so being able to instill those kinds of values and teach those kinds of lessons to our next generations is incredibly important. So again, thank you for all that you do, and we look forward to all the different ways that we can help going forward. And John, you are our worship team leader, and of course, we have a lot of things to thank you for. You have been part of making, revamping, I guess you would say, our worship experience here at Christian Church. New lighting, new camera work, new sound, all these different areas. And if I'm not mistaken, you also have been teaching members of our church body how to play instruments, how to play guitar, how to play the drums. And so what areas do you see available to us for growth, and in what ways can we help you out?
Yeah, so there's plenty of opportunities to serve. So like you were saying, I do give, lessons.
Free.
Yes, free lessons. It's mostly because it's just part of my job, but also because, I don't consider myself a professional of any of these areas. So if I feel like I need to get, I just don't feel like I need to get paid for it. So, anyway. So I give like drum lessons, bass guitar, acoustic guitar. I could do singing, and I could do a little bit of keyboard. And then, anything sound related, I train those people too. And then we have somebody has to operate the slides for all the songs, and that's probably the easiest thing to do. So if you're intimidated by anything else, you could start by serving on slides, and it's literally just the push of a button and then a little bit of timing, and you're good to go. So yeah, there's plenty of opportunities to serve on stage as well as off stage. We currently have one or two, I mean, pretty much one drummer that drums like 90% of the time. And then we have 2 or 3 bassists, but the bassists also serve, well, and the drummer actually, they all serve on the sound team also. So we have a lot of people doing a lot of different things, and that limits them a little bit because they're kind of spread around different areas, which I'm very grateful for. It would be impossible to do all this without our volunteers, but we're always looking for more volunteers, and we don't desire that, you know, it's not like ideal that we have 3 bassists also doing sound, which makes they have to be on like every week or every other week. So that's not our desire. We want to have enough volunteers where we can just have a lot of people involved, and you can focus on one area, or you can maybe serve in a couple different areas, but you don't have to be on every single week. But we are thankful for those people that do that, because we wouldn't be able to do without them. So yeah, so we have also one other opportunity to run a camera, which is, since we've had it for the past, 2 months, I think, something like that, 2-3 months, we've had that camera over there, and there's a chair there, but no one's actually operated the camera just because we don't have anybody currently doing that. So we have that opportunity also, and that would probably be the second easiest thing to do. So plenty of opportunities to serve, and if you're intimidated or worried, you can trust that I'm not going to let you serve until I'm confident that you're able to run things for Sunday morning. So we'll train you up as much as you need, and yeah, so.
Yeah, there are 2 things that really stood out to me about what you said, and I think the first is a recurring theme that we have here in Christian Church, and that's where our volunteers that we have are stretched a little too thin. They have been more than willing for quite some time to fill whatever need we've really needed them to fill, and we use the analogy like a utility player in baseball, where they know all the different positions and they basically fill whatever position is necessary. And again, these individuals who we're more than grateful for. We are more than grateful for them. But they've been doing this for quite some time. And like with anything else, you need rest to renew yourself, to renew your strength. And I think with our faith, that's no different. We need the opportunity to be renewed. It's one of the reasons that we take communion every week. It's to renew ourselves and to renew our dedication, and these individuals need a little time. They need a break here and there. So the more help that we can get to make sure that we're not overworking our volunteers, and again, we stress that they're volunteers, the better. But the other thing was just the opportunities that we have to be a part of the creative process here in Christian Church. It's not just come in and do what we tell you. And some areas it might be like that, PowerPoint, there's really not going to be too many ways that you can get creative with PowerPoint, but maybe, if it's something that you're super interested in, you could get, creative with the background of the slides, or, things like that. But this podcast is a prime example. I was given the opportunity to be creative and to be innovative in the sense of doing something that we haven't done before here in Christian Church. And we're looking for new avenues and new things that we can do in that regard. We've talked about doing video testimonials and things like that. And so whether it's sound work or video production, those types of things, there are just so many different areas that you can be involved and put your stamp on it, put your creative touch on it. And I think that's a big part of taking ownership in your church and taking ownership of your faith. And I think that's just, again, a great opportunity that we have here in Christian Church. Luke, you are the newest member here at Huron Christian Church. You are a discipleship minister. And so what have you seen since being involved here with Huron Christian Church in your areas of discipleship? What have you seen? Where can we grow? Where do we need volunteers? And what opportunities do we have available to us?
Well, like many other churches, we have Sunday school classes, we have small groups, we have weekly studies that people can be a part of. But I am not opposed to as many of those as we can have. The more the merrier when it comes to those types of things. So for me, it seems there's always that need. There's always the need for teachers. There's always the need for small group leaders, for hosts, people that are willing to host small groups. And so, I just want to mention that if somebody is interested in doing that, but they feel maybe a little intimidated, afraid, unable to do those types of things, they don't just have to, be hopeless in that area. They can come approach us, and we can talk them through it, and they can get training from a teacher that has done it before, and they can learn from a person who's led small groups for a long time, and so that they can be able to work their way into that role and then feel confident in doing that. We don't want people just to hop in and feel like, okay, you're in there, we're not going to help you anymore. We want to help people to fill that role and make sure that they feel confident and able to do what they're willing to do. And so we're always grateful for the people who are willing to serve. The Bible tells us that Jesus, he came to serve, not to be served. And, we're called to follow that example in serving other people. And so for everybody that has chosen to take their time and effort and energy to serve, I just say thank you.
Yeah, and I think, unfortunately, it's one of the pitfalls of the world that we live in today, in the sense that we always look for what's quick and easy nowadays. We want the quickest and fastest and cleanest and easiest path towards whatever it is that we're looking for. And in many ways, that's why we're left wanting in all of those different areas. And so given the opportunity to learn and to grow in those areas, and we've done men's leadership studies in terms of how to be better leaders within our church, and that's something that I think that we should all strive for in terms of being involved. It's not simply just looking for the easiest or most convenient way to be involved, because again, I think that's doing a disservice to what we're called to do and what we're called to be. But doing those things, seeking out individuals like yourself and the other leaders here in Christian Church, and growing in those ways, not simply settling for what we already know how to do. And so I thank you for your words, because that's a big step that I think many of us need to take and continue taking.
Yeah, I'd also like to add just something on that real quick. So you mentioned we shouldn't serve in the ways that are just the easiest and the most convenient. If you feel, I want to serve, I don't know how, I don't know where, I'm gifted, maybe I'll just start in the sound booth and click in the slides for the PowerPoint. But you should always continue to be growing and looking for new ways to serve. So don't always look for the easiest and convenient. But also, on the other side of that, you don't have to pursue something that you don't enjoy, something that you're not interested in. We have different ministry opportunities around here that have been generated because people had an interest, had a desire in that area, and then they just God has used that giftedness to provide another ministry opportunity. And so if you enjoy doing something, if you feel like you're good at something, come talk to us. We'd love to hear all the creative ideas, support those creative ideas, and find a way to serve people with those gifts that you have.
Yeah, and I think we talked about it recently too. You mentioned Kent with the garden and what that's been able to do for our church body and members outside. I mean, we've had conversations with individuals, Kent specifically, with people that we would have never probably run into before. We wouldn't have had that point of contact. And so each one of these opportunities gets us in front of different people groups. And so they're all so vital to the growth of our church body. And so again, I think you make a great point. Like if you want to start in an area where you just kind of want to get, your toes wet, right? Like you just want to, feel the temperature. That's perfectly that's all fine and good, and we welcome you with open arms. I think we're very eager for all the help that we can get. But I think, like we talked about, don't settle. Look to better yourself. Look to grow, and look to find ways that you can improve on yourself, and that might be in those areas that you started. And so I think those are all really good points. We also talked a little bit about not having excuses, right? It's easy for us to make excuses for why we can't serve, whether we're busy or it's too hard, like we talked about. I'm not going to be any good at it. Why am I going to do that? And so, if there is ever an individual to have excuses, and I know he doesn't like it when I say nice things about him, but Al, you would be an individual who you have so many different plates spinning all at the same time, whether you're here at the church or whether you are helping out at the daycare with Linda, or whether you're coaching basketball. You're constantly busy, constantly on the move, and yet you're still always here with a smile on your face, whether it's Sunday mornings or Wednesday nights or any of the random times I pop into your office to have 2-hour-long conversations about, whatever it is we talk about in those times. But as someone who is constantly moving and constantly going, where do you find that inspiration and motivation to stay involved? How do you do that?
Probably the greatest thing is just the impact of the lives of people that I've seen when they come to have a greater understanding of who Jesus is in their life. It affects them, and sometimes it's only a little care or a little high five or a 2-hour conversation. It doesn't matter what it is, but being available and opening myself and helping others to see that opening of themselves can make a huge impact. We're a part of a congregation that's we're called Friendly Servants, Meeting Needs and Making Disciples. That's our core, our purpose statement, and that was here way before I was here, and it's because we're surrounded by such a great group, and that group has learned the effectiveness of loving and caring for people. And that's ultimately what we're doing. We're not necessarily the best speakers or the best musicians or the best teachers or we don't always have those qualities or the dynamic part, but we might be really the faithful ones that are willing to open ourselves up to these opportunities that are before us so that we can, again, share that hope of Jesus with other people. And so that's the inspiration, is being able to see Jesus work. I feel like I've grown so much in my time here, but I also feel like I am so less content than I was when I first came. I'm no longer satisfied with just being okay. I want to do great things, and I want us as a church to do great things. Our goals as a church are not to let's make sure that we maintain the people that we got in our body. Our goals as a church are to reach 10% of our community. 10% of our community is about 1,800, 1,900 people. That's what we want to keep striving for that. How can we be effective in that? That's everyone doing their part, everyone using their giftedness, and sometimes even doing things without being gifted in it. I think there are tasks in the church that they are tasks that just need to get done, and we need people willing just to get things done. But then there's also tasks that are directive in specific giftedness of the person, and we need you utilizing your gifts, because that's when you fully serve and open yourself up to that service. That's when God just does some awesome things. And I want you to experience that, because when he can do those things, and when you can see those things, it just broadens your, really your perspective to do even more, and not settle, and not get into those ruts and routines that just merely are just really death. Just dying. You're just dying. And I guess we don't want that. We want to be able to encourage people to keep growing and to keep living life to its fullest, as we're called to do in our faith.
Yeah, one of the things that stuck out to me in one of the last conversations you and I had was we talked about timing and the importance of timing. And I think for so many of us, it's easy to get discouraged. Things don't happen in the timeline that we foresee them happening in. And so, we throw our hands up, we haven't seen the fruits of our labor, and here we are. I've been involved for, X amount of time, and nothing's come of it. So really, nothing, it's not worth my time, or whatever the case may be. And, you talk about how important timing is. You might hear something 100 times, but it's not until that 101st time that you hear the exact same thing that it finally clicks. And so maybe you can talk just a little bit about that and how that plays a role in the way you see things.
Certainly. I mean, I've been here 20 years, and I feel like this 20th year is going to be, and has the potential to be, the most fruitful time of being involved in the church body. It does take persistence, but it takes trust, ultimately trust, that God knows when we're faithful in our calling to him, we have to trust that he's doing his work, that he's the one that's doing his and opening hearts and minds, and peeling back layers, or whatever the task is, that God is doing his thing too. And so continuing to be faithful, continuing to look for opportunities, continuing to strive to better ourselves for the building of the kingdom, that's what we have to be. We have to be about that, and we have to trust that God's doing his part too.
Yeah, and we, of all the things we talk about why it's important to be involved and the purpose of being involved, whether it's helping people with physical needs that they have, like things through the backpack program, or witnessing to people through our works and through our actions, or whether it be simple fellowship and the rewards we get from meeting with others and being involved with others, at the end of the day, the big underlying principle behind all of this is it's what we're called to do. And I think, Luke, you touched on that a little bit in a previous conversation that we had, where, that's really, when it gets to the core of the issue, why it's so important for us to be involved, because that's what we're called to do. That's who we're called to be. And so, that's just such an important reminder that even when things aren't necessarily going our way, and we feel like we're hitting our head against a brick wall, in reality, all things are moving as in God's time, not ours. And so the importance to be reminded of that. And again, we talked about renewing our faith and renewing our strength. It's one of the things why we should continually be in prayer, and why we take communion every week, is to remember those things and to renew our strength to continue on doing that every single day, trying to be better and trying to reach more people on behalf of God's kingdom.
Right. And, we were talking about, sort of what keeps us from being burnt out. And that's one of the biggest blessings when it comes to being a Christian teacher rather than just a secular teacher. We have the gift of the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit is what continues to enable us to do the things that we don't think we're able to do, that continues to encourage us, that continues to convict us, that continues to teach us and empower us to be able to serve in ways that we never even thought possible. And not only that, but to bring about results from that we never even thought could come of it. And, as the scripture says, God can do more than we ask or imagine. And that's true. And if you don't believe me, serve.
Exactly. Now, Maria, we talked about utility players on the baseball field, and then people that need to know all different kinds of roles and to be able to fill any position when necessary. And sticking with that terminology, you also need a general manager who knows where to put the right where to put the right pieces of the puzzle together. And as someone who is involved in so many different areas and sees things from from a higher perspective in terms of seeing how all of these different areas function together, maybe you can talk a little bit to us about what you see as opportunities here in the church and the different areas that you're involved in as well.
Sure. Well, like we were talking earlier, there are so many places that for you to serve. Sometimes if you are standing on the outside, you don't know how to get involved. You don't know. It's a bit overwhelming, and it's a bit overwhelming because you think, oh, I just don't know if I want to be committed every single week to teach Sunday school or to do something else that really takes a weekly or a daily commitment. We were talking about different areas that even you could just get your toes wet. We were talking earlier. I have got lots of areas that you could just get your toes wet. Whether it is decorating or like Brad mentioned earlier, the children's church or Sunday school teachers. We have people on Wednesday nights that just come and cook. They come and cook every Wednesday night to make meals, communion prep, to set it up, to clean it up. Honestly, there's even somebody that comes to shovel the walks for snow removal. So many things that honestly would take just a little bit of time. And maybe they're not even committed every single week, but you could sign yourself up. You could let me sign yourself up, whatever. It takes just nothing, but like what we talked before, that if you do get yourself involved, honestly, it is part of growing in this whole family.
Yeah, and one of the things in terms of the commitment side of things, if we get enough volunteers, it all of a sudden becomes not a weekly commitment. Then it becomes maybe once a month or once every couple of weeks. Whether you're serving on PowerPoint or on sound. Just last week, this last Sunday, both Ben and Alex teach a Sunday school class together, and they when one of them's gone, the other one then steps in, and then I filled in for them this weekend. And I mean, just things like that where, just having multiple people available to be in a rotation all of a sudden then frees you up. And again, obviously we want people to be able to make that commitment, and we think that that's a good thing to do, to be able to make those kinds of commitments. But again, getting started, and if you're not at the point where you can make that kind of commitment, even doing something like that where you can be involved in a rotation, I think is incredibly important. And I think to your point, I mean, it's just where you get started, and once you get started, it's hard to stop. I mean, that takes hold, and I think so much of this is who we're called to be. And when we do those things that we're called to be, we have that desire to do more, I think. And so I think that's a big part of it. Are there any other areas that you all can think of maybe that are available to us? I know we've talked a little bit about everything. Looking at the servant ministry team sheet that we have over here, there are very few areas that we haven't talked about. And so if anyone has any additional thoughts, now would be the time.
I know one of the things that kind of fits in with our 2025 vision as we move forward and as we desire to grow and to reach out even to other communities. We're looking at this even as early as this summer to do some events or do some outreach opportunities to maybe a Woonsocket area or a Miller area or a Wolsey or a Hitchcock or a Iroquois or DeSmet or Lake Preston or and go into these communities, maybe up to Lake Byron or at the lake up at Lake Byron, so that we could have a worship time, maybe a devotional time, but then also just make a connection with the communities there. And the reason doing that is we have people in those areas that come to church that are a part of our body. And so there's some that are just outside of maybe the Huron area, but we want to help serve them or help them serve their communities in a better way. And so maybe we can make these bridge connections, have these opportunities of service, to have these worship times and gatherings, and maybe it would stir a small group study from those areas. Maybe it would stir just a connection with people that are there, that maybe they know some others, and find out they come to our church, or want to, or whatever the case might be. But that's part of our growth, and part of our again vision of being able to reach out. So there's some opportunities there too. It's like we're going to need some people to help set up. We're going to be able to need people to help maybe serve some food or do something together, just or hand out some brochures or something that just talks about the church, or just things like that, even that are coming up that might be a little bit different than what we'd normally do on Sunday mornings, but some definitely outreach opportunities that I feel like we want to help serve the people in these specific areas that they live in, and so even being involved in that, if you live in those areas, start inviting people. Say, hey, we're going to have this. Let's get some things organized for this to happen, and inviting your friends and family and your connections, your circles of influence, to be able to come and be a part of that. I think there's some exciting things that can be done with that, and sometimes it's just really the simple gift of invitation that you could utilize, and that we could all utilize to help further the kingdom.
And again, a big point of that too is, we talk about growth and our desire to grow, and that is in and of itself impossible without more help, more volunteers, but also more organization. And that's one thing that I think that we have learned as a church body, and maybe one of you here can talk about the app that we have. Huron Christian Church has done a lot over the last 5 years or so, adapting to the times, so to speak, and learning what type of tools we have at our disposal. Things like this podcast being one of those. And again, we talk about doing things like video testimonials like we talked about. But even now, we have a Huron Christian Church app. And that app allows us to stay in contact with people about when they're going to be serving, to create a serving schedule, whether that be doing communion or whether they're going to be teaching Sunday schools and things like that. Maybe, Maria, you can talk a little bit more about that.
Well, what we use is the Planning Center, and it's a whole scheduling. It's an awesome setup, and actually people can go, if Al, obviously Al will be busy on Sunday, but if I put him down, if I want him to do a different job, he would go in and he'd schedule himself. He can schedule himself to set up communion or to whatever it is, whether it's the snow shoveling, or we have all the different things listed on there that people can actually just, if they contact me and say, I'd love to get involved somehow to serve, we have them all listed on there, whether it's in nursery or whether it's in whatever, that they can go in and we can schedule them for as much or as little as what they would like. It's a great setup.
Yeah, and that's just, again, part and parcel of growth and being involved, having those types of tools available to us to streamline that process. Because, again, we're folks that are eager to make excuses for why we can't be a part of something or why we can't serve, and I didn't know I was supposed to serve, or I didn't know how to get involved with that, or things of that nature, and really I would find it hard pressed for anyone to come up with a good reason these days why there isn't some form or fashion that you can't be involved here at Christian Church with the multitude of things that we've talked about, the different areas, whether it's cooking. Something as simple as cooking and enjoying making food for people, making treats for Wednesday nights, things like that. There are so many different opportunities, making decorations for VBS or Wednesday nights. Whether it's tech, being involved on the tech side of things and our IT. There are just so many different areas. I would actually challenge you to try to find an area that we don't have available to you to serve here at Christian Church. And I think that's just a testament to you all here sitting around this table, to our leadership, to our elder board, all the things that they've been able to do and willing to fund. We talked about it on the last episode of the podcast, don't fight them, fund them. And I think you all are living by those words, and that's from my perspective. As I guess I would call myself middle-aged at this point, not quite young anymore. But I guess we're not going to get into that discussion because I don't want to make anyone here at the table uncomfortable. But nonetheless, as someone who looks at those types of things and is excited about ways that we can be creative and innovative, and the fact that this staff and this church body is willing and is open to those kinds of things is very inspiring, and I think promising for our ability to grow as a church body. And so with that, just to give you an idea of what we have coming up, Brad, maybe you can talk to us about the events that we have coming up here at Christian Church over the next few weeks. I know, I don't know if the podcast episode will be out before then, but I do know we got the Agape Cafe coming up, which I'm sure you'll touch on, and just give us an idea of what we got going on.
Yeah, that's right. Sunday night, this Sunday night, the last Sunday in February, is our annual Agape Cafe. So there's still time to sign up if this happens to come out before that. If not, you want to still give a donation to the youth, that'd be great too. Specifically, we're looking at trying to purchase maybe an additional vehicle or be able to sponsor some kids above and beyond what our normal budgeting numbers are. So it's the money that we raise will go toward a specific goal and project. So just, again, thankful for all those that have donated in the past and that are going to be donating again to that as we move forward. Of course, we've got our Sunday morning, our Wednesday nights coming up still. Looking again at, we're not too far off from our Resurrection Sunday, and so be thinking about that in the next month. Little ways out, but just a good time to maybe re-invite your neighbors or your friends to church. Of course, we're always live streaming these things, so if you're not quite comfortable coming back out yet, it is available online, but we sure miss you and want to see you at those things. We're also looking at just the possibility of having some more classes and maybe even some more informational classes coming up. Our first steps, kind of who we are as a church and what we believe and those kind of things. So be on the lookout for those opportunities coming up as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Brad. And as always, we are going to be putting this podcast out on our Christian Church YouTube channel. We're also going to be bringing that podcast to you wherever you listen to your podcast, whether that's Spotify, iTunes, or Google Podcasts. And if there's somewhere else where you might be listening to your podcast, let us know, and we can see if we can't get it on that platform as well. But just stay tuned to our newsletters and our email blasts, letting you know about the different changes and things that we have going on here at Christian Church. And just one more quick thing, as we go forward with this podcast and we talk about different ways that you can be involved, even doing things like being active in sharing the Christian Church activities and events through social media posts and sharing our podcast with your friends and families on the numerous social media platforms. Stuff like that helps further our goals here at Christian Church as well. And so, just doing things like that is going to be incredibly helpful. And we look to reach as many people as we possibly can. And so we would appreciate that as well. So hopefully if you're getting enjoyment from this podcast, which we hope you are, we would hope that you would be eager and willing to share that with your friends and family. So Al, without any further ado, maybe we'll have you lead us in prayer.
Heavenly Father, thank you for just how you work in our lives, and we're grateful for the opportunities that we have here at Huron Christian Church, and we're grateful for the many lives that have sacrificed and served and loved and cared for this community for many, many, many years. And Lord, I pray that we just continue to be encouraged and strengthened as we move forward together as a body, and just pray that you'd help us to reach as many as we can as we're faithful in our service to you, Lord. And all these things, Lord, we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
All right, that has been the third episode of the Huron Christian Church podcast. Thank you for listening, and we look forward to talking to you again soon.